we claim to be doing. Now, how you prove that is a different story. How you make sure that we actually do submit to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is a very different thing. That's why there's a lot of stuff like that in the deen that kind of bring that idea. Example, when you recite إِيَّاكَ نَعْبُدُ وَإِيَّاكَ نَسْتَعِينَ, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the hadith that's related by Imam Muslim, he replies to you and he says, هَذَا بَيْنِي وَبَيْنَ عَبْدِي, this is between me and my servant. What he means by that is this is yet to be proven. That's what you say. You say إِيَّاكَ نَعْبُدُ وَإِيَّاكَ نَسْتَعِينَ. That's what you're saying. You're claiming that you worship Him and only Him, and that you seek aid and support from Him and only Him. Well, that's a claim. Well, you have your life to prove that, inshallah. You have the rest of your life to kind of prove that claim to be true or not. So the concept of submission to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, which is what Islam means, it does not mean peace. Salam is peace. Islam is submission, which is very different. Not to take away from the concept of peace that exists in the deen, but it's a very mistaken way of looking at it. If that's what it means is submitting. You have free will. That's all you really have. That's all we really own and actually possess in this life. Everything else is temporary. There's an illusion of ownership of things, but what you really have is your free will. You can choose, and when you with that free choice choose to submit your choice or be in state of submission to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, giving up your free will to His will subhanahu wa ta'ala, it's a big deal, and there's a lot of layers to that. It's actually very complex, and that's what these surahs talk about. Each surah looks at that topic from a different angle. Surat AlSaba looked at it from the most interesting of all angles in my assessment. That's why I started with it, because it talks about submitting when it's specifically and especially difficult to do so. Whether the difficulty is physical, whether it's financial, whether it's social, whether it's psychological, whatever it may be. When it's really hard to submit, Surat AlSaba shows you examples of how you need to do it anyway. It doesn't matter. It was never about submitting only when it's easy and only when it's feasible to do so. We submit because that's who we are. That's because we're Muslims. We've made that claim. Ya Rabb, we submit to you. And you're going to see this theme to be repeated within these surahs. Surat AlSaba is unique. It looks at the concept of submission, but it looks at it from a communal perspective, a social, society perspective, civilizations. How do groups of people, how do large populations submit to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Do they submit? And is there a form of submission that we're supposed to be looking at? And how do we deal with it? So Surah AlSaba looks at it from a number of different angles, and the two examples that were given in the surah so far are the example of Dawood and Sulaiman alayhim as-salam, the submission of that community, the community of David and Solomon, and then the other example was the example of Saba. They were just 1,000 kilometers to their south, same time, almost same place, the opposite mentality, and then how things kind of played out differently for both of them. The ayat after that, or the chapter after that, started with qul, and we had 5 or 6 qul in a row. Qul means say. So whenever you find that in the Quran, you find these little chapters or little paragraphs in the Quran that have at the beginning of each ayah qul this and say that and say that. So it's one of 3 things. Either it's telling you how to debate a certain topic, or it's giving you a perspective, a mentality. This is what you're supposed to say in public about yourself as a Muslim, or it's starting a dialogue. It's showing you how a dialogue would work, how you would converse about something. What is your outlook about something with people who disagree with you? So the groups that you're disagreeing with is contextual. Each surah is talking to different types of groups. Surat AlSaba, obviously off the bat we were given 2 examples of civilizations that believe and those that don't. So obviously what this is looking at is what our dialogue as Muslim communities was going to look like with non-Muslim communities. And that's when we recited the verses that had all that وَإِنَّا أَوْ إِيَّاكُمْ لَعَلَى هُدًى أَوْ فِي ضَلَالٍ مُبِينٍ. It's either you or us who was guided, or the other way around, completely misguided. So when we're talking to others, yes, we believe in what we believe in, but the way it's going to be proven is through outcome, not through statements. What I believe, the fact that what you believe is right isn't right just because you believe it, just because that's what you say. It's right because you're going to be able to prove it through proper conduct and through fellowship and submission of it, and then it will show it'll prosper. It'll show it'll come to fruition. The same thing is قُلْ لَا تُسْأَلُونَ عَمَّا أَجْرَمْنَا وَلَا نُسْأَلُ عَمَّا تَعْمَلُونَ. You're not going to be when we have dialogues with those who have different mentalities than us, who have different belief systems, who don't agree with us on how you're supposed to live, whether in a group or individually. The concept is that you're not going to be asked about what crimes we commit, nor are we going to be held accountable for the mistakes or what you do in your life. The idea being, okay, you do your thing and we'll do ours. And let the outcomes judge which way of life was more worthy of living. Let it be like that. Let it be through evidence. Let it be an evidence-based. Oh, they're gonna play this downstairs and upstairs. Oh no! There's a way to change that. I don't know how to do it though. I'm not gonna be able to hear anything. All right. At the end of that, chapter, the ayah وَمَا أَرْسَلْنَاكَ إِلَّا كَافَّةً لِلنَّاسِ, and a reminder to the Prophet ﷺ, the only place in the Quran we have that we were sent to everyone, to all human beings. We don't have ownership over this. And the concept of us and them only exists because we have yet to be able to explain what this is to others. That's all it is. It's not the idea of we are Muslims are a group and everyone else is no. The Prophet ﷺ, everything that was given to him was sent to everyone. It is our job to make sure that if there is khair and barakah in it, that it arrives at the footsteps and the doorsteps of every human being, and that they get a chance to, if not listen to it, at least experience it or participate in it. And that is an important concept within the Quran. That nothing that the Prophet ﷺ gave us is something that we withhold from others, or that we see that we have more ownership upon it than other people do. No, the only ownership you have over what he said ﷺ is how deeply you follow it, and its benefit comes to you and only you at the end. The final thing that we recited last time, and these are all different ways of looking at the concept of submission from a societal perspective, was another point that happens in societies a lot, which is leadership and followers. And we got to listen to a dialogue that was going to happen Yawm al-Qiyamah. That's going to happen Yawm al-Qiyamah. When those who were deemed weak in their lives, istud'ifu, meaning they were either very poor, didn't have much status, probably very ignorant. So by nature, human beings aren't just born weak; they are made weak by societies that don't give them their due diligence and don't treat them properly. So they were made weak, and then they accepted that upon themselves, which made them even more still da'ifun. And then there's those who istakbaru, those who so it works. It just doesn't work downstairs. Just in the wrong place. That's all. So usually there's like a thing they pull out downstairs in the wall and they put it into a different wall and it was supposed to work. I don't know. Anyways. Yeah, I don't know. Istakbaru means those who were given, their status was blown out of proportion. Those were given more than what they deserved. Istakbaru. So they were, it's not that they were big, that they were great. No, they were made great by others. And they were put in a position that was beyond who they were supposed to be. And of course there are many examples, you see that every day on the television. So when Yawm al-Qiyamah, you have two examples of people who are standing beside each other, they're talking. They've just realized that they lived their lives not the way Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had commanded, and not the way Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had wanted for them to live it. And as they stand by each other, they start talking to one another. Because they've been held, they can't move forward to Jannah like everyone else. So they've been held. وَلَوْ تَرَى إِذِ الظَّالِمُونَ مَوْقُوفُونَ عِنْدَ رَبِّهِمْ يَرْجِعُ بَعْضُهُمْ إِلَى بَعْضٍ الْقَوْلِ. And they start speaking back and forth to one another. So the weak group, يَقُولُ الَّذِينَ اسْتُضْعِفُوا, the ones who are made weak, الَّذِينَ اسْتَكْبَرُوا, they tell them, لَوْلَا أَنْتُمْ لَكُنَّا مُؤْمِنِينَ. If it wasn't for you, we would have been believers. It's your fault. We were followers, you were the leaders of the land. What you said, we did. What you taught us, we learned. And you're the reason that we didn't accept the deen. And you're the reason that we lived the way we lived, and we acted the way we acted, and we thought the way we thought. It's your fault. So of course, the other group is not going to sit there and take it. They have an answer. قَالَ الَّذِينَ اسْتَكْبَرُوا لِلَّذِينَ اسْتُضْعِفُوا. They say back to them, أَنَحْنُ صَدَدْنَاكُمْ عَنِ الْهُدَى بَعْدَ إِذْ جَاءَكُمْ. Are we the ones who physically stopped you from accepting guidance when it came to you? Did we come and physically say, you're not allowed to listen to this, you're not allowed to think about this, you're not allowed? So there is an understanding for the first group saying that it wasn't for you to be a Muslim, not because you physically stopped me, but because you kept on telling me it was wrong and it was a lie and that they're all this and they're all that. You kept on filling my head with all this stuff, and that's why I didn't accept Islam. So the other group says, no, we said what we thought, but at the end of the day, we didn't stop you physically, we didn't hold you back, you could have done whatever you wanted. But kuntum mujrimeen, you're the ones who chose to live the life that you lived. You're the ones who chose to be on the wrong side. So they come back, of course, that's not the end of it, they come back at this end, and they say, بَلْ مَكْرُ اللَّيْلِ وَالنَّهَارِ إِذْ تَأْمُرُونَنَا أَن نَكْفُرَ بِاللَّهِ وَنَجْعَلَ لَهُ أَنْدَادًا. Yes, of course, physically, you didn't restrain us, but مَكْرُ اللَّيْلِ وَالنَّهَارِ, you were plotting for this, night and day. You plotted and you planned and you lied and you manipulated the opinion, you manipulated the media to the point where we could not accept it, commanding us every day not to believe in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and to associate others with Him and not to accept the deen. And that's why we did it. And they get the last word. I mean, no one else gets to say anything after that. They say it and that's the end of it. But at that point, punishment has been made clear to everyone. It was visible to all. And they knew that this argument wasn't going anywhere. And no one was listening. I mean, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala was not interested in this argument, and the judgment of what they did was not going to change because of it. So when they saw the punishment, all that happened was that they kept secret in their minds, in their hearts, the extreme level of regret that they had when they saw al-adhab, al-punishment. وَأَسَرُّوا النَّدَامَةَ لَمَّا رَأَوُا الْعَذَابَ. And as they're talking and arguing, the punishment is brought up, and when they see it, they stop talking and they keep it secret. How remorseful they were at that moment, or they're going to be at that moment when they see it all. They see it all in front of them. وَجَعَلْنَا الْأَغْلَالَ فِي أَعْنَاقِ الَّذِينَ كَفَرُوا هَلْ يُجْزَوْنَ إِلَّا مَا كَانُوا يَعْمَلُونَ. And the chains are put in the necks of all those who disbelieved. They will not be punished with anything that they did not do. That's the end of that snapshot of Yawm al-Qiyamah. It's now every surah in the Quran, almost every surah, besides the really, really small ones, like the really small ones in Juz' Amma, every surah in the Quran has at least one snapshot of Yawm al-Qiyamah. That's something in all the Quran. You can take this as a challenge, go find one that doesn't have it. Everyone has it. Every surah has it in it. More than once sometimes. If they're long ones, they have more than one snapshot of Yawm al-Qiyamah. And they're long and short depending. Now, because Yawm al-Qiyamah, there's no surah in the Quran that tells the story of the Day of Judgment from the beginning to the end. There's no surah that does that. It's just little snapshots here and there. Each snapshot that you find is directly related to the theme of the surah that is being taught. So this one here is directly related to the submission of societies. See, societies, in order for a society to submit to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and the form of submission that societies show is shukr, is the act of gratitude and thankfulness shown by using the blessings that you have for the benefit of yourself and the benefit of others, and not withholding khair if you can, and not wasting what you were given by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is how you submit. This is how societies submit. The problem with societies, or the biggest challenge for the submission of societies, is corrupt leadership. And submissiveness of the general population. You see, we submit to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but we don't submit to anyone else. Here's the point I've been trying to make for years now. You submit to Him subhanahu wa ta'ala. So when you know something that you are listening to is what He wanted or what He says, you accept it and you put no conditions on that acceptance. But anything else and anyone else and anything you listen to cannot have this cannot be treated in a similar way. No matter who says it. It doesn't matter who says it. Anyone at all. You have to raise your kids like that. It's a headache when you do, because now you're going to be questioned. Your authority is questioned. Really, it is. It's a headache because now he questions your authority. But this is how Muslims have raised their kids. This is how Muslim youth became independent early on in Islamic history and the seerah. When you look at the seerah of the Prophet ﷺ, you see 15-year-olds and 16-year-olds and 17-year-olds and 20 and 21-year-olds changing how the course of events and huge moments in his life, ﷺ, and he's depending upon people very, very young in age, within their 20s. Well, you wonder, well, how could he do that? How could he give so much trust to a 22-year-old? How could he send Mus'ab to represent himself in Medina, right, for 2 years, and the guy's only 21? I know 21-year-olds. How many of them are you ready to? How many are you ready to actually give that level of trust to represent you, yourself, in everything? Everything he says is going to come back to you, and you have to have that level of trust in him, because that's how they would do it. You submit only to Allah. Everyone else is up for discussion. Everyone else's authority is just based on how much they follow the truth or how much they don't. You follow the truth, we're with you. Isn't that, you can see the theme everywhere. Isn't that what they told Abu Bakr? This is what he said to him when he accepted the Khilafah. If I say the truth, then follow me, and if I don't, then you need to take it into your own hands, and you need to stop me if I'm making mistakes. They all accepted this, and they didn't just say it. We all say it, but we don't really do it. They actually did it. This is how they lived. So you're taught in Islam to only submit to the will of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Everyone else, at the end of the day, we're just, the Imam who's standing and speaking, they're just another dude, just like you. Really not that different. Maybe he knows a bit more, maybe. It's knowledge. Knowledge is subjective. And knowledge is not a criterion, or is not a part of the criteria to actually make it higher into Jannah. Unfortunately, knowledge doesn't do it. Being given more knowledge can actually send you deeper into Jahannam. It's just a tool. If you use it properly, it's a booster upwards, and if you don't use it properly, you will sink really low. So it's just a tool. It's really nothing. It's not something that you're offered that makes you better, or makes you higher, or makes you more. That's all it is. So it's a responsibility, really. When you're given knowledge, it's your responsibility to teach, to speak, and it's your responsibility when you're listening to think, to question, and to wonder. Because when you decide to make a decision, when you decide to accept what I just told you, you carry it alone. Yawm al-Qiyamah, you take care of it. You can't come and tell me, hold on, you the one who told me. I'm like, that's your problem. I told you, you didn't have to listen. Like you could have told me, no, you're wrong, and kept on going. And you can't tell me, well, I trusted you. Well, that was your fault. I didn't. There you go. There's your mistake. You blindly trusted me. That wasn't. You shouldn't have done that. Because everything. This is the idea. Is Yawm al-Qiyamah, you're going to be held accountable for what you do alone, and you can't blame anyone else. You can't blame who told you. Now, this brings forward what I'm saying right now. Brings forward a very difficult way of life. It really does. If you actually think about it, it's actually very hard. I don't know that everyone here listening to me is actually willing to participate in such a society or be a part of that. And many people don't want that. Actually, I know for a fact that what I'm saying right now would bother a lot of people within Islamic would bother them, even shuyukh. They would be bothered by this because this is not what they're looking for. They want the people to listen and to follow. And I do too, but I need them to be to take responsibility for what they say and what they do, and they have to play it through their heads. And they need to question me. The moment you stop questioning what I say is the moment that I stop really caring what I say. It doesn't matter anymore because no one's questioning it. So whatever I'm going to say is going to be accepted. So I don't need to really put that much effort. I don't need to make sure that everything I'm saying is 100% right. I don't need to look at all the angles anymore because no one's really saying anything. So at the end of the day, you feel like I can say anything, and anyone's going to say just keep on going, and that is harmful for those who are listening and harmful for the person who is speaking. So it's actually a very good regulatory system that exists. That I speak what I believe to be what Allah Subhanahu wa Taala wants. Using the best of my judgment, the best of the tools that I have, the knowledge tools that I possess, using my conscience as my guide to say what I believe Allah Subhanahu wa Taala is teaching, and it's your job to take all that information, process it, and make your decision in terms of what you're going to do. And if we all did that, yes, there would be more discussion. Yes, there would be more back and forth within a relationship. But at the end, it would come to maturity. It'd all mature. It's a hard way to do it, but it's the healthy way to do it.
Not everybody can be able to do that.
Sure. So what is it that I'm subjecting? What risk am I subjecting myself to when I say that? I'm subjecting myself to a lot of to those who are very ignorant, who don't know much, who are going to start arguing and fighting and yelling and doing. But I'm also and that's a risk, or that's a consequence, or that's a price that you need to pay as you move a society forward. But on the other hand, you're teaching everyone to be critical thinkers. You're teaching people to have the ability to critically think and question everything, and you're building a society that is much more intelligent and much more responsible and mature regarding their choices. So yes, it brings a headache for those who speak, but it's the only way to bring forward a society that is capable of being responsible and accepting responsibility of who they are and what they do. If it's all on me, then you don't really own it. It's not your ownership. If Khalas, he's the one who says whatever he says we do, then the deen is kind of, in a sense, kind of my project, not yours. You're on board. It turns into more of a company type of thing. Like, it's my company, you're an employee here, right? As an employee, you don't care that much, right? Actually, you enjoy if there's a fire and you get a day off. if somehow the systems, crash that day, awesome, I don't have to come in tomorrow. Alhamdulillah, perfect. But the truth is that the company that you're working in is losing assets, it's losing value, and it's not doing very well because you don't feel ownership. Now, obviously, the parallel of a business and a deen aren't perfect. But I'm trying to just get something. I want to make a point.
Is it not also, sorry for interrupting, the concept or the theme of accountability is what?
Exactly.
What differentiates Islam from
exactly.
any other religion?
100%.
Every single
100%. If you remember in Juz Amma, we recited 4 or 5 surahs in a row, from Surat At-Takwir right down to Surat Al-Buruj. The whole theme was just the fact that your choice, you have choices. These choices are sacred. These choices are God-given. These choices, you're accountable for them. There's recordance of these choices. There is punishment and there is reward for these choices. And if you're passive, passivity is a choice in itself. So the concept of you choosing and understanding that you will carry the consequences of your choices, and you will do that alone. You will stand there with no one there to defend you, and no one there for you to blame. You will carry the choices that you make. And understanding that is important. And how you raise children to become that, and how you make sure that society functions like that, is that you need to feel ownership. That this deen is yours as much as it is anyone else's. The Imam on the Minbar does not have more ownership on Islam than you do. Nor is he more responsible for Islam than you are. And if you don't feel that, then there's your starting point. There's the point for you to begin changing the way you think. If you come to the Jum'ah, for example, and as you sit there, you look at the Imam on the Minbar, and the people who are standing beside him, and feel that they're more responsible for the Muslim community than you are. If you feel that they're more responsible, that it's more their thing than it is yours, then that's your starting point. That's where you need to come and start. You have a problem in the way you think about things. That is not true. That is actually very, very, very wrong. That's a mistaken way of looking at things. But the reason it exists there is because we've been brewing this way of thought where we just don't question things, and we don't have a voice, and we don't speak, and we don't know even how to do it because we haven't done it for so long. That's why we're scared of it, because we think it's going to turn into a fight. We're going to start yelling at each other because we don't know how to do it. When we don't know how to do something and do it wrong for the first maybe 50, 60 times, and it's not easy to get it done. But once you learn how to debate properly, you know how to discuss things properly, you know when to intervene and when to think a bit more, it becomes a bit more. The Prophet ﷺ not have these problems? Let's look into his seerah. Does he not have? Of course he did. What did he have to say at the end? No questions were allowed at the end of the last 4 or 5 years of his Bi'athah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. You weren't allowed to come and ask random questions. You couldn't just ask a random question. You needed to listen to what was being said, and then you could talk about the topic itself. Because because everyone was so open of questioning everything and talking about everything, that ﷺ could not get through any topic at all. You couldn't do it anymore. You would sit and start, okay, we're going to talk about this before someone has a question that's completely irrelevant. Right? And then another person has a question, and then no one learns anything. So they were told no questions, so people would just sit down and listen. And then if they had something to talk about regarding the issue that was being discussed today, they can go ahead and they can do that. But they couldn't just ask a random question, because it became ridiculous at a certain point. He couldn't get through anything, alayhi salatu wasalam. That's why الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا لَا تَسْأَلُوا عَنْ أَشْيَاءَ إِن تُبْدَ لَكُمْ تَسُؤْكُمْ وَإِن تَسْأَلُوا عَنْهَا حِينَ يُنَزَّلُ الْقُرْآنُ تُبْدَ لَكُمْ عَفَا اللَّهُ عَنْهَا وَاللَّهُ غَفُورٌ حَلِيمٌ in Surat Al-Ma'idah. That's why the Sahaba loved whenever an Arabi, a Bedouin man came around. Because Bedouins didn't know anything. They just came in. They had no idea, they weren't aware of this ruling. They would come in, they would be yelling, Ya Muhammad, Ya Abul Qasim, well, what about this, what about that? So people love it, come around, because he doesn't know. And we're not going to tell him. We're not going to tell him, oh hey, you're not allowed to ask a question, because he doesn't know. We can benefit. He'll ask a question, maybe we learn something new. And then he would ask the Prophet ﷺ, the Prophet ﷺ would answer questions. So, but the actual fact that there had to be a ruling to say stop asking random questions. What it means is that this is how the community functioned. Everyone was asking questions all the time, and the amount of randomness in these questions was very, very high. I mean, no one felt that there was anything that they couldn't ask, or there was anything that they couldn't talk about. There was anything that they couldn't bring up and discuss. And that means a lot. And we talked about something similar to that in Surat AlSaba when we recited the ayat. Each ayat had a story before it. And the stories were mostly based on questions. People would just come in and say something to the Prophet ﷺ. For example, this Jum'ah, Jazakallah Khair, the Shaykh brought that up again in the Muslim Mosque. There were 3 ladies who came and questioned whether the Quran was talking to them at all. Whether they mattered at all. That's if you think about that, you wouldn't say that to the Prophet ﷺ's face, but they did. And they felt no wrongdoing by saying it. They didn't feel that they were making a mistake coming and questioning whether Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala cared about women or not. To the Prophet ﷺ's face. And he had no problem answering it. He had no problem addressing this, because there was really nothing that was taboo. There was nothing that you couldn't talk about at that time, regardless of what it may be. Again, is that not tiring? It's very tiring. It's very tiring. Now, I'll give you one more example before we start with the new chapter. Because if you don't do that, this is what you get. This is what I'm trying to say. If you don't do that, you get this example here that we just read last time. Yawm al-Qiyamah will be standing and we'll be having this conversation. You're the one who told me. No, it wasn't me. You could have done it. You're like, no, but you're the one who plotted. Yeah, I know, but you still could have done it. And there's this argument between 2 people who one follow and the other listen, because both are harmed. Both the leader and the follower when the lack of critical thinking exists within the equation. Meaning, I understand what I'm saying, like the leader, when they speak and the followers don't question what's being said, yes, the followers end up going down the wrong road, but the leader does too, because no one questioned what he had to say. So it becomes a double-edged sword. Both harmed. It's your responsibility to think about things. If it doesn't make sense to you, for you to come back and ask, it's your responsibility to do so. Now, I think it's important that we take that responsibility very seriously. I do this when I deal with younger ages. I'm always asked why does it work? Why do I work with younger ages a bit better? Very simply, there's nothing that they can't talk about. There's nothing that I will not offer a logical answer for. There's nothing where just do it because I said so. Kids, that's an important part for a young person's life. Nothing that I'm telling them is in stone. Nothing I'm telling them they need to do just because I said it. No, everything is open for discussion, so they can talk about everything they want. I just have a better argument than them and I win, that's all. They'll do what I said because I just have a better argument. My logic is better. It's just better logic. They don't have as good logic. If you can beat me with your logic, then khalas, you can do what you want. But I beat them with my logic and then I win. And then they'll do it. But this time they'll do it and they're okay with it because they lost logically. That's the language that the human mind, the pure human mind understands. The pure human mind will always respect logic. If you can beat them with logic, then they'll listen. But we keep on mistreating that to the point where the human mind becomes, we take that away. And we teach them, no, it's strength that dictates what's going to happen, not logic.
Kind of mentality,
Yeah.
A lot of followers, they want to be a follower, a leader to follow, just without asking.
Yeah. We have the examples of it are countless. You'll find it everywhere, really. Even Islamic law, you'll find people who've done that a lot, who will only follow the words of those before them. Will never question anything they hear, and the catastrophes and the disasters that have happened because of that are actually many of them. What I want to say is, it's important that even when you're dealing with youth in your life, that you remind them that they need that what rules is logic, is rationale. That's what rules, not power. Because if you make them do what you want them to do, just because you're stronger than them, then you're telling them this is how the world works. It works because I'm older than you, I'm stronger than you, I have more money than you. You live in my house. I buy you your food. Whatever. Yeah, all that stuff. It's right, what you're saying is right, but you're teaching them that's the language that works in the world, that it's not logic and rationale, it's power. And that's not what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And I think this is a fundamental difference between how the world functions today and how we treat each other today and what the Quran actually teaches us. No, it's وَإِنَّا أَوْ إِيَّاكُمْ لَعَلَى هُدًى. That's what it is. قُلْ يَجْمَعُ بَيْنَنَا رَبُّنَا بِالْحَقِّ ثُمَّ يَفْتَحُ بَيْنَنَا. It is. You do your thing. I do whatever is right will prevail. Righteousness and the truth will prevail. Whatever has more sense behind it, whatever has more logic, is the thing that is going to be going to come to fruition, and we're going to follow that. So it's not going to be based on just me, because this is what I said or this is what I think. So when you're having a discussion with your kid, and you find that your logic sucks, then maybe stop pushing for whatever you're pushing for. I'll give you an example, a really simple one. This is my favorite example because I have to deal with this on a daily basis. This is what I have. This is the number one request I get. Is can you talk to my kid about his haircut? The number one request I get is can you talk to my kid about his haircut? That's the number one thing. So apparently the most important thing is haircuts for parents with kids. So I told him, why don't you do it? Well, he doesn't listen to me. I'll tell you why. Because you don't have a good argument. Because your argument sucks. Because when you come and tell him don't have a haircut, you don't know why he shouldn't have a haircut. You tell him, well, it doesn't look good. But he tells you, it looks great to me. My friends think I rock with this haircut. Right? And then he was, well, that's not how we look. Who are we? What do you mean by we? Yeah, you're old and fat, and I don't want to look like you anyway. So that's a good thing, actually. I don't have to look like you. Awesome, alhamdulillah. Yeah, I think I'm on the right track. So there's no argument. But why is it that you're bothered by it? You're bothered by it because the thing you're bothered by, you just don't know why yet. You don't know how to put it in words. If you did put it in words, by the way, they would listen more. And when I put it in words for the kids, they're much more open to it. I tell them, this is why I don't like this haircut. Because this haircut is a haircut that represents a certain way of life, right? I don't know if you are someone who's rebellious against that way of life and just want to put the hair to prove that you can look like this and still be a good Muslim, or if deep inside you've already shifted away and this is just a symptom of you completely losing your faith, and this is what we're saying, and that's what. And when you say that, that makes sense to them. It's like, if you want to have that haircut, fine, have it, but prove to me that you're a better Muslim. Yeah, and this, or else you're losing the war. You're losing the fight. Meaning you've already sold out, and everything is done now. All that's left is the way that you look, and it's a bit easier to get that across. But still, they want to do it. The question is, do you think you have a stronger argument, and you think your argument actually lasts? And is this something that is worth the argument to begin with? Is it something worth the debate? Is a haircut something that you really want to put your cards on? And is it? I remember, I'll tell you this. I remember a parent came and told me about her kid's haircut, and I knew for a fact that he was smoking pot almost daily, like every single day. He was smoking weed, and I'm looking at this parent. I'm like, I can't confidentiality. I can't tell them that this is happening. There's an issue here. Like that's really that's all you see. It's the haircut, that's it. What about the fact that this kid is addicted to marijuana? How about you fix that first? How about you look into that first? How about we stop looking at the superficial issues and we actually dive into it as deep? But the problem is that we've been living in a certain way for so long that we kind of lost track of what's important and what's not, and what's see, superficially, it's nice when you see a son doing whatever his father tells him immediately, opening the door, standing there. But the kid may hate his dad deep inside. And the moment this kid is alone, he's doing things that are haram. But you'd rather that than a kid who's questioning his father in front of you, but deep inside he's a strong Muslim. Think about it, and you'll find that you would rather number one than number two. And that's a problem. That's a problem to me. For you just to want the appearance. You want a young man who's dressed in a certain way, looks a certain way, will act in a certain way in front of you, but then behind, I don't care. Then someone who may be a bit more problematic, who may have a loud voice and may be questioning everything, it may be a bit difficult to deal with, but deep inside a heart of gold and loves Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, wants to be a better person. Which is better? One gives you a nice appearance but garbage content, and the other one is a bit different. So what do we want? Do we want the content and the difficulty along the way, or do you want things to be smooth but garbage on the inside, which is what we have right now? We actually don't even have that right now. We don't even have the smoothness. Everything doesn't work then. It's not working on the surface nor in the content. But at least and since that's the case, then we have nothing to lose. Let's at least move towards caring about what matters. So question what you hear and think about it. If it doesn't make sense to you, revise it. Doesn't mean you have to ask me 5 million questions. No, Sheikh Google is also on my side as well. You can ask him and you'll be able to answer many of my questions. Look into things. If you hear something that's not makes sense to you, it doesn't make sense, read and listen and learn. And then if you still can't figure out, then ask and figure until it makes sense, because then you keep me on my toes and other people like me. So when we say things, we think about it before we say them, and we make sure that we're going to say something that makes sense, and that this is what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is commanding. I'm not just making it up because it suits me, because it's good for me. What I'm saying works for me, so I'm going to say it. No, it has to be I'm saying it because this is what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala actually is teaching, and I have to accept upon myself what I like, and I have to accept upon myself what I don't like as well, or else the deen will become hawa. It'll become just personal interest, and that's when everything comes crashing down. That was just my final comments on the verses we recited last time, because they are an example of a very sad moment on the Day of Judgment that we can make sure that we're not a part of. We can make sure that we dodge that on the Day of Judgment by caring a bit more about what we hear and what we're a part of, and questioning a bit more. So now there's a new chapter we start. I'll read the few verses together, and you'll see the theme will be quite clear after we start. So we start from ayah number 34 of Surat AlSaba. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. وما أرسلنا في قرية من نذير إلا قال مترفوها إنا بما أرسلتم به كافرون إلا قال مترفوها إنا بما أرسلتم به كافرون وقالوا نحن أكثر أموالا وأولادا وما نحن بمعذبين قل إن ربي يبسط الرزق لمن يشاء ويقدر ولكن أكثر الناس لا يعلمون So he says, وَمَا أَرْسَلْنَا فِي قَرْيَةٍ مِّن نَذِيرٍ. And we've never sent a messenger. Nadir is a messenger or a warner, someone who will bring forward a message of warning. And of course, this is one of the names that was used for prophets. And it's used here specifically as Nadir because that's the first thing that they do. Before they give you the good news of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's reward to come, they will warn you of a punishment that exists as well, because you're better off knowing about that than knowing about the other one. Meaning, if there are two things awaiting you, a punishment or reward, you need to know about the punishment. Is more important, because to dodge that is more important to you, is higher on your list of priorities than getting the reward. If you lose the reward and make sure it didn't get punished, you're all right. But if you ended up getting punished, you're not going to be happy about it. If I fail to tell you that there may be consequences, negative consequences for something that you do, then you won't be happy with me. If I forget to tell you about positive consequences for something that you do, you may be upset. But at the end of the day, you're neutral, and neutrality is better than negativity. So Nadir is a name of prophets, of messengers, that is used in the Quran quite commonly, and that's why it's used in that way. Bashir is not used on its own. It's only used when it's with Nadir. So Bashir and wa Nadira come together, but it never comes alone. Except in فَلَمَّا أَنْ جَاءَ الْبَشِيرُ أَلْقَاهُ عَلَى وَجْهِهِ. And in that case, it wasn't a prophet. It was someone who actually brought good news to Jacob, the father of Joseph. But here, Nadir is a name that is used for all prophets all the time, because they warn. They warn you, if you live this way, then the consequences of that life, in dunya, in this life, and in the hereafter, are not going to be positive. And that's what they do. وَمَا أَرْسَلْنَا فِي قَرْيَةٍ مِّن نَذِيرٍ. We've never sent a Nadir to a qarya, to a group of people, to a population. إِلَّا قَالَ مُتْرَفُوهَا. Except that the wealthy of them, or the ones who have more than what they needed. Taraf, mutrafuha, the word mutrafuha, the root word is taraf. Taraf is when you have a bit more than what you need. You have more than what your necessities are. So mutrafuha, the wealthy, the ones who are well off, they don't what they need, what they have, and they have more than that as well. Except those who are wealthy, who have no reason to wonder about life at all, because everything is going so well, and they can just go ahead and enjoy all the wealth and all the pleasure in it. It's easy when you have money, never to stop and think, really, when you look at it. Imagine it for a moment. If you're very wealthy, money is not an issue at all. You own a huge home, and you have all the cars in the world, and you have all the friends everyone wants, and you're living in the hype part of town. Then you can just easily cruise from one day to the other, just enjoying life, never ever needing to think about anything. I mean, there's no reason for you to stop and actually question, why are you alive, and what brought you here, and is there purpose and is there meaning for this, and is this going anywhere, and should I be doing something different? And really, there's no. But when you have it's when difficulty occurs for a moment that you start thinking differently. It's if you get if for some reason you're put in a position to fear death, like you get really sick or something, or you have a near-death experience, like you had a car accident, or you eat one of those red peppers and you choke on it. Something that makes you fear for your life for a moment. Then you stop and you think about things. And when you think about things, that's suddenly when you start wondering. But if there's a lot of money, then you can easily just turn that question off again and just continue. So what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying is, every time we send a prophet or a messenger to a group of people, what happens is the wealthier group, Inna bima ursiltum bihi kafirun. Indeed, we are, regarding what you have been sent with, we are disbelievers. I mean, we don't believe anything that you're sent with. What you were sent with is something we don't accept. And this has been the norm every time. So this chapter is going to look at why it is that societies can't submit, what causes it, where the corruption exists, what actually ruins it. So if you're looking at, we've been looking at societies from different perspectives so far. We looked at 2 different examples. Then we looked at what the dialogue needs to be. Then we looked at what we're supposed to do within in terms of questioning and understanding that we're all responsible. And now here, the information we're being given is why is it that societies struggle with believing in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Why is it the Prophet ﷺ, when he came to Mecca, they didn't accept? Even though you would think they would. They're all the descendants of Ibrahim alayhi salam and Ismail, all of them. All of them go back to, they know their genealogy very well. They know that they hail from Ibrahim and Ismail alayhi salam. So why wouldn't they accept one of their own who is telling them, this is what Ibrahim alayhi salam, your great-grandfather, brought forward? Why wouldn't they accept it? It doesn't make any sense for them to refuse it to begin with. Right? You look at it, there's really no, and then when you study seerah in a bit of depth, you find that the only reason that they didn't do it was financial. It was just money. There was so much tied up with these asnam. These asnam served for Quraysh to be able to maintain their wealth. The idols were a way for Quraysh to maintain their authority. Meaning, look, we have the Kaaba, so if you want to have your idol on the Kaaba, then you need to listen and do what you're told. And you need to be very careful about our wealth and our money and our tijara, our merchandise as it moves forward, moves back and forth from Yemen to Damascus, needs not to be touched. You guys can kill each other, we don't care. So, whatever you want to do amongst yourselves, you can fix it, but no one touches our stuff, or else we behead your idol. And all of Arabia know that your idol was thrown on the floor and destroyed. So everyone's scared. So this maintains their authority. Now, no one really believes that rocks do anything. No one does. I don't believe anyone has ever done that, really. Maybe a few people, maybe 1 or 2 in 1,000 years ago thought that a rock could do something. But for the majority of human beings, it's pretty clear cut. Yeah, rocks. It's a rock. Like whatever. We're scared from something else. There's some superstition that could be attached to this rock. Superstition that was given to us by someone else who wants us to respect the rock because that will offer him authority or her authority. So no matter how you look at it, someone is benefiting from you wanting that, from you believing in that. So when you look at belief, there's always something financial attached to it. So for Quraysh, it was really that, look, if you say La ilaha illallah, the consequences of that is that we're going to have to take all these idols down and send them back or destroy them, and we're going to believe in Allah. And then we have no authority over Arabia anymore. Then our money interest, our financial interests are at stake and are compromised, and that wasn't something they were willing to participate in. So regardless of how clear what he said sallallahu alaihi wasallam was, and how compelling his argument was, how much they knew deep inside that this is it, they just couldn't imagine doing it. And of course there's other reasons as well, but I'm giving you when you look into seerah, this is what you find. This is the basic problem. This is why Abu Lahab refused. Abu Lahab's biggest problem was, when you look at Abu Lahab, why wouldn't Abu Lahab accept Islam? He is the Prophet ﷺ's uncle, so there's no trivial problem. There's no tribal issue where he's from a different tribe and I'm from this tribe. No, I'm his uncle. I actually raised him. So he can easily take credit for what he's doing ﷺ in his life. Right? And he knows he's honest. He's lived with him all his life. Actually, both his sons are engaged to both the Prophet ﷺ's daughters at the time. It's an easy thing. There's really no reason for Abu Lahab not to accept it. It was just the money. What did his money help him? It was money. His tijara, he had spent all his life building this empire of a business, and he's like, no, don't touch my money. He's that type of guy. Whatever you want, just don't come near my money, man. You touch my money, you're dead. You're done. You're out of my life. And that's what he did basically to the Prophet. He not only did he exile the Prophet, but his whole Bani Hashim, all his family. He's the only one from Bani Hashim who stood against his tribe, because it was about the wealth. It was about maintaining it. So this ayah here, telling you every time a really good idea is brought forward, I want you to take this let's extrapolate this for a moment to the modern. Every time a really good idea is brought forward, it's the wealthy who will say no. Because it makes sense. I think if I were wealthy, I would probably say the same thing. Because whatever the system is, I don't understand how it works, but apparently it's working in my favor because I'm wealthy, I make a lot of money on it. So why would you fix something that's not broken? This is working perfectly for me. Why do you want to change it? Because it's not working for you? Well, if that's how it is, then every man for himself. Because you want to change all this, you want to turn this all around and turn this over. Well, now turn the tables. Well, this is working for me. I may not even understand why it's working for me or how, but I just know that if it's working for me, why would I change it? Why would I want to touch it? And that's why every time the prophets are sent to their people, or good ideas are presented in communities, it's the wealthy who fight them down. I believe we're at a point in history where the wealthy are so wealthy and so powerful that it's impossible to actually get any good ideas forward anymore. I hope I'm wrong. I really do. But I'm probably not. We're at that point where I don't think that you can actually ever change anything anymore. I believe that every time a president comes in with a good idea, president of any country in the world, the first day in office, he finds out who actually runs the place immediately. And he finds out that he cannot touch it, and that he cannot change anything. That's why you find all these people who run for office, once they're in office, their focus becomes on such stupid issues. Just dumb stuff like, I don't know, abortion, for example. Forgive me if this is an issue that you care about a lot, right, for whatever reason. But this becomes the issue that they have to talk about. Or maybe if some guy groped some lady, and now this has to become the thing that they talk about only. That's it. Not to say it's not an important issue, obviously, but this becomes the only thing that we watch on the news. You go through your feed. That's all it is. What did this guy say? You understand what's happening on the other side? You understand what's being cooked on the other side of things, behind the curtains. You understand the deals that are being made, and the money that's being lost, and the wealth that's being stolen, and the resources that are being depleted. And but why? Because it's just, we'll focus on stuff that become less and less and less relevant to the massive numbers of human beings, to the fact that it just doesn't serve the wealthy to talk about the stuff that really, really do matter. Every president, every person who ran for office in history spoke at the beginning of their terms of taxing the wealthy, right? They never do it. They never do, not once. You never tax. Why? Because you tax the wealthy, then you're gonna be out of office very soon. The moment you do, you're thrown out. So you don't tax. So they end up finding a different way of doing it. They find some other way to make money, but it's not going to increase taxes on the wealthy. It's going to make sure that those who own more money make more money, continue to make more money, and those who don't have money carry more risk and make less and less every single year, no matter what that means. Even if that means printing out huge amounts of currency that have nothing behind it to actually back it up. So when you look at the way the world's run today, I don't know. Again, both points that I brought up are important. Whether abortion or the fact that there's a sexual assault happening everywhere in the world, both are important issues. But the way the world is run, you have to question a bit of what's going on. You have to question a bit of what's happening. You have to be suspicious a bit of what's being put every single day, and how many issues on the other side. How many people die daily of starvation and continence around the world? How many people are being imprisoned and judged unjustly every single day all over the globe? The amount of atrocities that are happening on a momentarily basis, every moment. But these aren't important issues. Why? Because the poor, caring for the poor doesn't pay. Because you don't make money off caring for the poor. Because they don't matter. Because they don't have anything. It doesn't matter, they don't have money. So when you care for them, you don't get anything out of it. So we don't. And their issues become completely irrelevant. And maybe every once in a while, if you're scrolling through your feed, or you're watching, maybe they show you some starving kid, and you just go quickly because you don't want to ruin your evening, or because you're waiting for dinner and you're not going to be able to eat after you watch this, and it ends with that. It ends with that. And this place was bombed, and these people were killed, and these issues are completely irrelevant. But yet other things are on the news every moment of every day. Subhanallah. So yeah, every time an idea is brought forward, the wealthy will say, "Inna bima ursiltum bihi kafirun." Do you understand what this means? What it means is, regardless of what the guy is saying or why he's saying it, their status or their statement is, whatever it is that you brought, "Inna bima ursiltum bihi," whatever it is that you brought, we don't believe it. Well, don't you want to hear it first? No, it doesn't matter. You have a new idea? Yeah, we don't want it. You have something new? Yeah, good. Yeah, we don't believe it. It's yours. Isn't that exactly what they were? If you want more detail, go to Surat Hud. You'll find that this is what they told Salih. تعلمون أن صالحا مرسل من ربه. So the wealthy are saying, "Hey, did you hear that Salih is saying he's a prophet?" So the poor people of the society who are listening to say, "Yeah, we did. قالوا إن بما أرسل به مؤمنون." Yeah, we believed in what he brought. So the moment they believed, قالوا إن بالذي آمنتم به كافرون. Okay, whatever it is that you believed in, we don't believe in it. They're not even interested in hearing the argument. I mean, the actual concept, the content of the message itself is not relevant. They don't care about that. The fact that it's going to challenge the status quo, the fact that this is going to change things in any way, they're not interested anymore. So here, this is what the ayah is saying. The moment we send a messenger, the moment the wealthy hear about him, whatever it is you're sent with, we don't believe. إِنَّا بِمَا أُرْسِلْتُم بِهِ كَافِرُونَ. And what do they say after that? وَقَالُوا نَحْنُ أَكْثَرُ أَمْوَالًا وَأَوْلَادًا وَمَا نَحْنُ بِمُعَذَّبِينَ. And this is the logic they're going to use. They're going to say, we have more money and we have more children. And whenever you see these two things in the Quran, so whenever money, amwal, means it's talking about financial status, and awlad is talking about social status. So these are the way the Quran categorizes these things. Because as a person, you need both in order to function happily in a community. You need to have financial status if you need to have enough money to take care of yourself, sustain a lifestyle that is acceptable, and you need to have social status. So social status, the symbol for that in the Quran is having children, is having people, because that gives you strength. Back in the day, this is how it worked for many millenniums. It's having children. So because if you have no social status, people don't respect you. You have a lot of money, but people are kicking you around, pushing you around. No one cares about you as a person. Then you're not happy either. You need to have both. So وَقَالُوا نَحْنُ أَكْثَرُ أَمْوَالًا وَأَوْلَادًا. We have more financial and more social status than you. And that must mean that whatever Lord exists must love us more than you. وَمَا نَحْنُ بِمُعَذَّبِينَ. And we will never be punished, because if he didn't love us, he wouldn't give us all this stuff. This is the argument that they have, that we're obviously doing things right, and you're obviously doing things wrong, or else we wouldn't have more money and have more status than you. And you're saying the argument that this argument has been used a lot, whether the usage of it was theoretic, meaning to actually say it, it's a statement they make, or it's just a mentality that exists that maybe is stated in a different way, maybe not stated like that specifically, but that's what they think and that's what they feel. Well, we are the strongest country in the world. We do have that must mean something, right? I'm not going to say it out loud. But it must mean something. You have more money than everyone. Yeah, well, so what does that mean? Does that mean that you're doing it right and everyone else is doing it wrong? That's what you mean? That you have more rights, that your vote weighs more, that your opinion weighs more? Then is that what it's supposed to mean? وَقَالُوا نَحْنُ أَكْثَرُ أَمْوَالًا وَأَوْلَادًا وَمَا نَحْنُ بِمُعَذَّبِينَ. It's the same words, it's just in a different time. I mean, when we're reading these ayat, it's talking about the mentality of those who are like that. And it exists today, same form, just maybe different specific words are being used. Just different words, based on the context of the time that we're living in. So what is the answer to that? قُلْ. Is this a problem in societies? It's a big problem in societies. Societies can't function if the systems within them don't support the poor to become middle class or to gain wealth. If the system is rigged or set up in a way where we protect the wealth of the wealthy and we put poor people at risk all the time, then this system is going to lead long-term to destruction of the society or enslavement of the poor. And this is how it's worked. If you study history, this is how it happens every time through history. How slavery came forward was very simple. We think it's complicated. It's really not. You just have those who are wealthy and those who are not. Now, the ones who are wealthy want to make sure they stay wealthy and actually make more money. So they put a financial system forward that will ensure that to continue. Now, they get wealthier and the poor group gets poorer. They get more poor than they were before. And with poverty comes ignorance. And with ignorance comes lack of social status, more kids, smaller homes, less ability to learn or to grow, and then these people don't function anymore. And then it's easy to do whatever you want with them, and that's how slavery began. And slavery didn't start in one continent; it's all over historically, it's everywhere, from Japan to this part of the world. It's always been there because these systems have existed in that form. And that's why riba is haram, by the way. Yes?
Sorry to...
Yeah, go ahead.
Coming across this point, our time of Khilafah, was our system more like a social structure, welfare structure, or more like capitalism, or maybe like a hybrid system? So
it wasn't, it's hard.
Like
No. So the financial system during the Khilafah, or at least during the Khilafah al-Rashida, the first maybe 30 years, was still in development. Meaning it had not come to full maturity yet. What is Islamic? If your question is what does Islamic finance law look like? What does it look like? Well, that's really is defined by 4 or 5 basic points. So there's really no detailed system of how to run the globe in the 21st century from an Islamic financial perspective, but there are 4 or 5 laws that need to be maintained. These are, and if you can maintain them, then whatever you run, whatever financial system you run is Islamic, and if you can't maintain them, then it's not. And as simple as that, because it's not from a theoretical perspective, it's simple like that, but then from a practical perspective, it's more complex. It becomes harder for us to get that done. But as long as you have these 4 or 5 concepts clear, we'll talk about them inshallah. There'll be a point during the coming surahs that I'll address that inshallah in a bit more detail. But the idea that I'm trying to bring is that a system that does not support that is a system that is, for example, that's one of the laws. If the system is put in a way where the wealthy carry no risk and the poor carry all the financial risk in the world, that is a system that is rigged to keep the wealthy wealthier, and the poor will just increase in their levels of poverty. So in order for society to function, it has to be the opposite. And that's why these ayat come in the surah. You're going to see two verses that are very similar, repeated twice here. Each one with talking to a different group in a different way. So regarding those who are wealthy, who are saying, well, the reason that we don't need to listen to you is because we've proven we're already better than you by the fact that we have more money than you and we have more social status. So we don't have to listen to what you have, and we're not, because we have something better. So the answer to them from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, qul, say, Inna Rabbi, indeed our Lord, yabsutur rizqa, He will offer His provision. Yabsut means gives a lot of something. Al-bast is something being spread. So He's being spread upon you His provision. Wa yaqdir, yabsutu rizqa liman yasha, to the one whom He wants, meaning He will give extra provision to whoever He wants. And He will withhold, make it less in amount. Al-qadr is to make something less in amount, or to tighten something, so it's not as spread out. And this is a figure of speech. So provision is either spread out or it's really tight. And that's what these are the words that we use in our daily dialogue regarding money. So He will spread out the provision or make it very tight to whoever He wants. وَلَكِنَّ أَكْثَرَ النَّاسِ لَا يَعْلَمُونَ. But most people don't know this specific point. Most people don't understand that how much money that you have and how much provision that you're given has nothing to do with the quality, with your quality of a human being. What type of human being you are doesn't matter. That's not the criteria for it. Then what is the criteria? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's will. لِمَنْ يَشَاء. It's a choice that He makes subhanahu wa ta'ala. It's not necessarily connected to anything. So for them to say, oh, well, we don't have to listen to your new idea, and the reason is because we have more money. We've already proven that we won and you lose, and we have more and you have less, and we know more and you don't. You need to listen to us. Well, the answer from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is you were given more because Allah chose to give you more. You could have changed this around and given others more. So that's not the criteria, and that's not a reason for you to refuse what you're listening to, what is being offered to you. But most people don't know this. وَلَكِنَّ أَكْثَرَ النَّاسِ لَا يَعْلَمُونَ. Within society, that goes both ways, meaning how the wealthy should understand it, and then how the poor should understand it, and then how everyone's supposed to go by it. So it's actually really nice. It's a we may not finish them today, but I advise you to go and read the rest of them until 39 today. Take a look at them, and you'll find that they're actually they're putting a system for you that really does work. That's why you look at ayah number 36 and 39. They start in the almost exact identical way, with very small differences that I'll explain to you why those differences exist once we come to it in a minute. So the first part of this chapter established that every time a new idea or a messenger is sent to a group of people, it's always the wealthy who refuse, and they refuse off the bat without even knowing the content of it. Inna bima ursiltum bihi kafirun. Whatever it is you brought, we don't accept. Period. Why? Well, because we have more money than you, we have more status than you. We are obviously know what we're doing, and if there's a Lord, He must love us more, and things are working out for us. So you don't get to tell us what to do. You listen to us. So the answer from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is no. When it comes to provision, this is offered to people based on His will. He gives more, He gives less. That's His choice, no one else's, and it has nothing to do with how good you are or how bad you are. But not many people know this. وَلَكِنَّ أَكْثَرَ النَّاسِ لَا يَعْلَمُونَ. So be amongst the few who do. As a Muslim, be amongst the few who do understand that how much money you have has nothing to do with how much He loves you subhanahu wa ta'ala or dislikes you. Has nothing to do with it. Have you ever measured your relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala or His relationship with you based on wealth before? If you go back into your history, you'll find out you probably did at least once or twice in your life. If you just go back and take a good look at the way you thought, you'll find that it happened at least a few times. You found out that the moment you were given something you wanted, you took that as a sign that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is happy with you. And that was a mistake. or you tried to get a job, or you tried to make money, or got into a deal, got into business, didn't work out, took that as a sign that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is unhappy with you and He's punishing you for something.
With the way of thinking.
Yeah. So if you actually go back to your own history, you'll find that you've done this at least a few times. All of us, we fall into this trap, in our lives a couple of times. Why? Because most people don't understand that wealth is given. It's like the tide of the sea, the ocean. It moves in the will of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It has nothing to do with whether He loves you or hates you, whether you're right or wrong. This is just how it is. It's just the waves of life. Sometimes you're up and sometimes you're down. No one is guaranteed anything else. And if you understand that, you're from the few people on the planet who do. Now, understanding that doesn't mean that, I said this and I understood. No. Understanding it meaning that, this is a part of who you are. This is how you live your life. You're never ever measuring His relationship with you subhanahu wa ta'ala based on your own personal wealth, how much money you're making, how far you're getting ahead financially. Try to think about that. I advise you to take this as something to do. Think about your life previously, and you'll pick up on a couple of times where your brain told you something like that before. Living in this country, you probably ended up on the positive side more than the negative side, so you're happier about it. But trust me, it will turn around at some point, because that's how life is, and you cannot judge it based on anything else. Because you're looking at these guys when they're saying, they're like, what did they say? They said because they have more wealth they're better, and you don't like it, you're disgusted. Well, before you get disgusted and before you don't like it, maybe think about it yourself. Have you ever measured your relationship with them based on wealth, ever? And if you did, then maybe you need to think about this again. Because maybe the wealth that you made was a couple of $1,000s. What happens if you're making? That's the problem. So recite the ayah after, inshallah, before the. وَمَا أَمْوَالُكُمْ وَلَا أَوْلَادُكُمْ بِالَّتِي تُقَرِّبُكُمْ عندنا زلفى إلا من آمن وعمل صالحا فأولئك لهم جزاء الضعف بما عملوا وهم في الغرفات آمنون والذين يسعون في آياتنا معاجزين أولئك في العذاب محضرون قل إن ربي يبسط الرزق لمن يشاء من عباده ويقدر له So you can see a difference here. So you have an extra 3 words. You have min ibadihi and you have lah at the end of it. And that's not random. I'll explain in a moment why they're like that. وَمَا أَنفَقْتُم مِّن شَيْءٍ فَهُوَ يُخْلِفُهُ وَهُوَ خَيْرُ الرَّازِقِينَ. So the point made after that, so the ayah that answered them said, when in terms of extra wealth or less wealth, it is given not based on whether He loves you or not, it's based on His will. لِمَنْ يَشَاء. That's what He wills subhanahu wa ta'ala, and we never know what His will is subhanahu wa ta'ala. He's not questioned about His will, which is the whole point of submission, that we don't question His will, and we may not ever know why, at least not in this life. And the point made after that, وَمَا أَمْوَالُكُمْ, to drive this this point home and make it very clear, and it is not your wealth, وَلَا أَوْلَادُكُمْ, nor your children, means not your financial status, nor your social status, بِالَّتِي تُقَرِّبُكُمْ عِنْدَنَا زُلْفًا. Neither your financial status nor your social status are the things that will draw you closer to us Zulfa means in a closer position, meaning in satisfaction. Zulfa means we're not talking about space here. We're not talking about you're sitting over there, you're going to come closer by sitting over here. Come closer in terms of importance, in terms of satisfaction, in terms of love. بِالَّتِي تُقَرِّبُكُمْ تُقَرِّب, to bring something closer. So it's not your social or financial status that will draw you closer to us in terms of your level of importance, or in terms of our level of satisfaction or pleasure of you. إِلَّا مَنْ آمَنَ وَعَمِلَ صَالِحًا, except those who believe and do good. Now, do good is a rip-off of a translation of the word amila salih. And I've made this point at least, I think maybe 10 times in the last year. And I'll make it every time I have to make sure that everyone understands. Whenever you see the word amilu salihat or amila salihah, usually the way it's translated is that you do good deeds. And that's acceptable, and that's not wrong, but it's really a rip-off of what the meaning actually is. Salih, if something is salih, if this phone is salih, that means it works. And if it doesn't work, it'll have like a little thing on it, say ghayru salih. It has nothing to do with it, it's a pious phone. It probably never prayed a day in its life. But if it's ghayr salih, it means it doesn't do whatever it was made to do. Now, it may look really nice, it may not, but if I can't phone someone on it, it's ghayr salih, because it was made, well, maybe it's not what it's made for anymore. But a long time ago, phones were made to actually talk to people on them. Regardless, actually speak to people. So, but if a classic car, for example, it's ghayr salih if you can't drive it. It may be a beautiful piece of art. It looks beautiful, but it's not really a car because you can't drive it. Ghayr salih. Salih actually does what it's made to do. So when he says amila salihah about you and I, what he's saying is that they're performing the deeds I created them to perform in the first place. They're serving their purpose. They're doing what we wanted them to do. Because as a human being, you can do many, many things. You can do a lot of things. You can do great things sometimes, but it's not why you were created. He didn't make you for that. You achieved the highest level in some field, but that's not why he created you, subhanahu wa ta'ala. That means you're not salih. You didn't serve your purpose. You didn't serve. So wa'amila salihah means they performed the deeds that allowed them to serve their purpose. And that is a very, very important way to understand this word in the Quran. Every time you see amilu salihat or amila salihah, this is what needs to come to mind. He created you, subhanahu wa ta'ala, with a purpose. You need to do the deeds that allow you to serve that purpose. Based on the context of where and when you live, these deeds will change. That's why they're not defined. That's why amilu salihah, amila salihah, or amilu salihat is it's a phrase that is very vague or open, because what dictates how you serve your purpose, there's all these different constituents, all these different things and components of your life, meaning the talents that you have, the skills that you were given, where you're living, how old you are, who you are, what cards were you dealt in life? Like, are you very wealthy? Are you poor? It depends on who you are, how you're going to serve your purpose. But you have to understand the concept of amila salihah. The concept of purpose has to be there. If purpose is not, if just good deeds, meaning you smiled in someone's face, you give that example a lot, right? Smile. Okay, smile. Did you serve your purpose? No, well, don't smile then. I'd rather you frown and serve your purpose than walk around smiling to people but not doing your job. It's important that we prioritize. Amila salihah is very important. It has a meaning. It's supposed to be something that dictates how you live your life. So what he's saying is, it's not your financial status or your social status, not your wealth or your kids that draw you closer to us in status, except those who believe and serve their purpose. See, if you believe and serve your purpose, then suddenly your financial status and social status will bring you closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So yes, wealth is a good thing, only if you use it to draw yourself closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala by serving your purpose with it. The same thing if you have kids, if you have social status, it will draw you closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala if you use it that way. And if you don't, He doesn't love you because you have more wealth or because you have more kids. If you're sitting at the end of your life in your 70s and you're sitting in your big mansion and all your kids are surrounding you, that's not evidence that He loves you and He's happy with you. That's what I'm trying to say, basically. It's not evidence. Unless you can prove that you used all this for His satisfaction and you served your purpose with it, and then you can be happy about it. But even then, what you have is not evidence that He's happy with you. That needs to be clear. You're sitting there and you have all that, and maybe a friend of yours is sitting alone somewhere in a shack. Doesn't mean that he loves you more than him and that you did better. Doesn't mean that. And you're saying what I'm saying? Right now you're like, I don't know if I like that or not. Well, that's an example of what I'm trying to say. Sometimes we measure our relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala based on what we have.
So there's a question asked by many non-Muslims about this. They say, why do I have to believe if I do good deeds? I don't harm anyone. Hear that a lot.
Sure.
And then, I do good to people.
Sure.
Nice guy.
Yeah. I love that. Yeah, that's awesome. That's the most beautiful of all arguments. Is that I'm a good guy. So you're good. All right. Let's stop there. So who told you were good? Well, he told him. Oh, so that person over there is the person who's going to judge you Yawm al-Qiyamah. So he said, you're good? Okay, then please tell us, how is he? Are you going to take him to Jannah? If you are, then khalas, you're good. Well, I'm a good person. Well, who said that? I don't know. God never told me I'm a good person. I'm not sure based on what you're judging that you're a good person. Are you judging it by the fact that you didn't harm anyone? Who told you the bar is that low? Like I didn't harm anyone. Well, jazakallah khair. You think that's what the bar is? I just didn't hurt someone? That's it? That's all you got? I'm good because I didn't hurt people. Well, of course, that's a good thing. That doesn't make you a good person. A good person is something that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala judges. He says if you're good or if you're not good. He gets to make that judgment, and only He. No one else gets to do that. So when you make that judgment about yourself, that's very arrogant. I'm a good person. Well, good for you. I don't know how you know that, but you can say I have good intentions. You can say I want to do good things. That's all right. But for you to say I'm a good person, it's very arrogant. And how you're measuring that, you're using criteria that Allah didn't give you. So if you want to say I'm a good person, well, use the criteria that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave you. Use the things that He asked you to do. Are you doing everything He asked you to do? Are you following His rules and everything that He told you to do? If you are, then maybe you're a good person. But until you die and you're resurrected and He looks you in the face and He tells you you're a good person, you have no evidence really that you are a good person or if you're not a good person. And of course this is a long argument, but this is what you have to remind. This is why I said Amila Salihah is so important. It's not just doing good deeds. It's not about doing good deeds. It's about doing what you were created to do. Figuring that out takes time. Figuring out what your purpose is actually is on its own a journey that you need to embark and take on so you can find out what it is. Because of course when two people are sitting beside each other, one person is extremely wealthy, has $1 million, and that's not very wealthy, but let's say he's wealthier than me, and then someone else who has maybe 10, and both of them, what is expected from both? Are the things that are expected from both of them the same? Are we expecting the exact same thing from both of them? No, this guy has a head start on everyone. If you were born into a Muslim family, you were taught Islam, you were taught Quran, the responsibility upon you to spread this message is much bigger than someone who wasn't. And we cannot be judged Yawm al-Qiyamah, and newsflash, we won't be judged the same Yawm al-Qiyamah. You're going to be judged differently. You're going to be talked to in a different way. You're going to be asked about different things. Someone who never knew Islam and accepted Islam in his life and struggled to be able to at least read the words, what they're going to be asked about Yawm al-Qiyamah is very different than what I'm going to be asked about Yawm al-Qiyamah. Be afraid of that. Fear that. With to quote Spider-Man, with great power comes great responsibility. This is a simple rule of life. Why does it die off the moment we talk about religion? Why is it? I'll tell you why. Because you're privileged, and when you're privileged, if you lower the bar, not much is left for you to do for your conscience to stay clean. I'm just not going to harm anyone. And then I can feel good about myself and I can enjoy my wealth and really not do anything for anyone else. And if that's what you want to do, that's your choice. But unless Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala came to you, spoke to you directly and told you, you are a good person, you're going to Jannah, then I'd be very scared to call myself good or to judge myself being good based on such a simple thing as I didn't harm anyone. Not to say that not harming people isn't a good deed, obviously. But it's a big drop off, wallahu a'lam, in terms of value. Just to finish the ayah. إِلَّا مَنْ آمَنَ وَعَمِلَ صَالِحًا. So except those who believe and serve their purpose with it, then your wealth and your social status won't help you. But if you use them for khayr, then they will help you. And if you do, فَأُولَٰئِكَ, and this is the beauty of the verse, فَأُولَٰئِكَ, and those ones, لَهُمْ جَزَاءُ الضِّعْفِ, they will be given the reward double. You'll get double the reward of everyone else. If you take what you were given and you use it properly, you get more reward. Jaza'ul dhif, that's why the word twofold. Dhif means twofold. You get twofold reward. Because you get the reward for doing the right thing, and you get the reward for using what He gave you, the status that you were given for that as well. So now the impact you've made is huge. وَهُمْ فِي الْغُرُفَاتِ آمِنُونَ. And they're in the high rooms of Jannah, looking down on everyone, fully safe. And I'll talk about the concept of safety next time, inshallah. Subhanakallah bihamdik.